Shodhanandana Bhajajanarandana Tira Vanachari Yamuda Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astottara Shatashishimat Vaichanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astottara Shatashishimat Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jai. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Oh, glorious to the seven virtues. Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious to the seven devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious to the seven devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we start in first from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. The chapter is entitled, "It Will Not Be Possible to Assist You." This is a letter. Dear Swamiji, the Prime Minister has seen your letter of February 8, 1966. She appreciates the spirit which prompted you to carry the spiritual message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to other countries. Owing to the critical foreign exchange situation which the country is facing, it is greatly regretted that it will not be possible to assist you from here in your plan to set up a Radha Krishna temple. But Prabhupada had other hopes. After writing to the Prime Minister, he had written again to Tirtha Maharaj, asking him to request Dr. Radha Krishnan to persuade the government to sanction the release of funds. He waited for 1 month, no answer. Apparently his godbrothers felt little obligation toward preaching in America. He had written that he needed encouragement from them to continue in America because it was so expensive. He had explained that he was spending the equivalent of 1,000 rupees a month. As such, I am counting every day to receive your favorable replies. But there was no reply. March 18th, he wrote again to Sir Padampat Singhania, requesting him to send a man from India to supervise work on the temple in New York, as Mr. Singhania had previously suggested. There is no record of any reply to this request. Prabhupada wrote again to Sumati Murarji, requesting her to please send him a mridanga to accompany his chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. He also requested her that in the future, when he would send many men from India, she obliged by giving them free passage on Scindia steamship lines. No reply. As his financial situation became more urgent and his hopes more strained, his support from India withdrew in silence. His unanswered correspondence was itself a kind of message, loud and clear. We cannot help you. Although no one encouraged him, Srila Prabhupada trusted in the order of his spiritual master and the will of Krishna. The word from the Prime Minister regarding government sanction had been a definite no, but he had received another extension of his visa. Now his last hope was Sir Padampat Singhania. Prabhupada knew that he was so influential a man in India that if he wanted, he could send the money. He was Prabhupada's final hope. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, text number 4. I was asked to give on 5, I believe. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it is 5. Okay. Okay. Serving from Srimad Canto 4, Chapter 22, entitled Prithu Maharaj's Meeting with the Four Kumars, and it's text 5. Tatpada Socha Salilair Marjitala Kapandanaha Tatra Shilavatam Britam Acharan Manayan Iva Tatpada Socha Salilair Marjitala Kapandanaha Tatra Shilavatam Britam Acharan Manayan Iva Tatpada Socha Salilair Majitala Kabandanaha Tatra Shilavatam Vritam Acharan Manayan Niva Parashocha Salilaya Acharan Manayan Niva Parashocha Salilaya Majitala Kabandanaha Tatra Shilavatam Vritam Acharan Manayan Niva Parashocha Salilaya Tatra Shilavatam Vritam Acharan Manayan Niva Tapada Shocha Salila Majitala Kabandana Acharan Manayan Niva Tatpada, their lotus feet. Shocha, washed. Salilai, water. Marjita, sprinkled. Alaka, hair. Pandanaha, bunch. Tatra, there. Shilavatam, of the respectable gentleman. Vritam, behavior. Acharan, behaving. Manayan, practicing. Iva, like. Translation. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumars and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Please repeat. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumars, and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Apani Achari Prabhu Jiveres Shikaya. It is very well known that whatever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in his life as Acharya, he himself practiced. When he was preaching as a devotee, although he was detected by several great personalities to be the incarnation of Krishna, he never agreed to be addressed as an incarnation. Even though one may be an incarnation of Krishna or especially empowered by him, he should not advertise that he is an incarnation. People will automatically accept the real truth in due course of time. Prithu Maharaj was the ideal Vaishnava king. Therefore, he taught others by his personal behavior how to receive and respect saintly persons like the Kumars. When a saintly person comes to one's home, it is the Vedic custom first to wash his feet with water and then sprinkle this water over the heads of oneself and one's family. Prithu Maharaj did this, for he was an exemplary teacher of the people in general. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. When was Srila Rupa Goswami, who is established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter, the 4 Kumaras have come. Prior to this, Prithu Maharaj he gave instructions to the citizens. Very wonderful instructions. As I was preparing and just sort of reading through the verses, I was really appreciating Maharaj Prithu's position as a very advanced devotee of the Lord. Of course, an empowered incarnation, a living entity who's empowered by the Lord with a particular ability, in this case to rule the citizens and be an ideal king. But he is also obviously a great devotee of the Lord, and his instructions were just so relevant and beneficial for the citizens on how to make the most of this human form of life and make one's life successful by becoming Krishna conscious and going back home, back to Godhead. Is the microphone loud enough? Can everyone hear? Okay. So because of his being such a great personality, the four Kumaras felt obliged or inspired to come and appear in the arena where he was given the instructions to the citizens. So such personalities don't appear to ordinary persons, only to very exalted persons, or if very exalted persons are present, then they'll come. But generally, we're not qualified to see such persons unless you're quite elevated. So the four Kumaras have come, and Pritha Maharaj is now receiving them in the proper way according to the Shastra, according to the Vedic custom, how to receive great personalities, given them the honor that they're due. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse spoken by Lord Chaitanya, Apani Achari Prabhu Jivere Shikaya, which is that an Acharya, before he begins teaching, he should first himself behave properly. And that's where the word Acharya comes from. Achar means to act. It's like similar to the English, to act. And so Acharya means one who's like a living example of how to be Krishna conscious. So, so the more we ourselves follow strictly the process of Krishna consciousness and act in a Krishna conscious way by following the process, chanting our 16 rounds really attentively, following the four regulative principles, then the more we do that, then the more effective we will be in inspiring others to become Krishna conscious. So this principle applies even on the material level, that if you want to convince someone of something, then like, for example, to give up smoking, for example, then it will be a lot more effective if you yourself didn't smoke. Srila Prabhupada gives this is the an analogy Srila Prabhupada often uses, the example he often uses of smoking. And I I remember when I was growing up, one friend of ours of my father's was he caught his children smoking. They were just young children, just like maybe 10 or something, or maybe young teenagers, and he caught them smoking cigarettes. There's a brother and a sister, and he like Afrikaners can be a little bit heavy-handed in their the shaman in their discipline of the children. Their disciplining children, they can be a little bit heavy-handed. So he made them smoke one cigarette after another, just like right there on the spot. Just finish one, then light another one, then finish one, then light another one. He made them smoke until well, I won't go into the details, but they became very ill, basically. And then he said, okay, that's enough. So the idea was that they wouldn't do that again from getting that experience. So, but then the thing is that he smoked himself. He was a smoker himself. And so someone later on pointed out to him, as the story became sort of well known, then someone pointed out to him, but you yourself also smoke. And he said that, yes, that's true, but they mustn't do as I do, they must do as I say. Which, okay, is a fair enough point. But still, it would have been more effective if he himself didn't smoke, or if he himself had maybe stopped smoking when he saw that and then instructed them. And if the children grow up seeing that their father's healthy and has a clear mind and so on because he doesn't smoke, then they'll be inspired to also not take up smoking. So this is the general principle that applies even on the material level. But it's especially true in Krishna consciousness, because the more one applies the process really nicely, especially if you attentively chant, like really taking your japa really seriously and really chanting our rounds with a lot of attention, then the more absorbed we will become in Krishna consciousness, the more Krishna conscious we will actually become. And the more internally absorbed we are in Krishna consciousness, then the more effective we will be in inspiring others to take to Krishna consciousness. Because people will see that, that you're happy, and they will be attracted to that actually. You are Krishna conscious because Krishna is all attractive. So if we are Krishna conscious, people will be naturally attracted. So we were in, my wife and I were in Christchurch not so long ago, and we attended a retreat by His Grace Burijan Prabhu, a Prabhupada disciple. And he was making a point which really struck me, that Lord Chaitanya's preaching strategy, what is Lord Chaitanya's preaching strategy, was mainly that he was just so absorbed in love of Krishna, internally absorbed in love of Krishna, that when people would see him, they would just become Krishna conscious on the spot and just overwhelmed in love of Krishna themselves. Then they would go back to their villages, and then others upon seeing them would also become overwhelmed in love of Krishna. And this way, Krishna consciousness was spreading throughout that area and eventually throughout India. So, of course, we can't imitate Lord Chaitanya. We're not on the level of Lord Chaitanya. So we also have to have actual strategies, practical strategies, how to try to give Krishna consciousness to others. But still, the point remains that the more internally absorbed we are in Krishna consciousness, the more we apply the process nicely and that way become internally absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then the more effective we will be, at least, in being able to inspire others to take to Krishna consciousness. So now, Maharaj Prithu, he is in, like, he himself is doing this. He is himself very Krishna conscious, and therefore others, upon seeing him, are inspired also to become Krishna conscious. But he's in a very big position. He's in a very elevated position in society, I mean, specifically, as a king. So, and we know that basic principle, that when someone's in such a position, others naturally want to follow what they do. It's a principle that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat eve taro janaha sa yat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. That whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by his exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So therefore, Krishna wants to have pure devotees, advanced devotees, in positions like leadership positions in society, especially the position of the king or the executive head of state. As he describes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 2, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo vidu sakalene mahata yoganashta parantapa. That this knowledge Bhagavad Gita was received through the parampara, through the disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. So it was passed down to the kings, specifically so that they could, that this principle could apply, that they could guide the citizens in a proper way with this knowledge, and also that people would be inspired to follow their example, and that way also themselves take to Krishna consciousness. So, because people used to really have, especially this position of king, people used to really have a lot of affection and attachments for the king, for the monarch. Like, if we may remember the story of Maharaj Chitraketu. Maharaj Chitraketu, this of course it's a different millennium to this, but he was he had a son, and the citizens became so happy that he had a son, because he couldn't have a son for so long. And when he finally got one, the whole country was celebrating. And then the son died, like he was just a few months old, and he died, passed away. And Maharaj Chitraketu and his wife were just, you can't even imagine how much they were lamenting. But not only them, but the whole palace was severely lamenting. And then not just the whole palace, but the whole country went into lamentation. And it's ascribed that actually the country pretty much came to a standstill due to everyone just being in such a state of extreme lamentation. So just imagine how much affection they had, how much attachment they had for the king, that they would react in this way. I don't think we would, if the whatever the current prime minister is, something happened to them, good or bad, it probably wouldn't be such a big deal to us. We would think about it, but maybe for 1 minute we may think about it, and then we'll just move on with our lives, and it wouldn't really affect us. But so things are a bit different now. But we have our role models that we follow in Kali Yuga, like actors and actresses and musicians and so on, and people really follow them. Actually, they really, what they wear, what they do, they really take them quite seriously. I remember my brother and I, for that matter, we used to like the Doors, Jim Morrison. Yeah, and I remember once my father, when he found out that my brother was into Jim Morrison, he got very upset with him, because Jim Morrison died of an overdose of drugs at a young age. He was maybe in his late 20s or early 30s or something. Because this is what a lot of these persons do. They, especially back then in the 70s, they really took a lot of drugs, and my father got really upset. He said to my brother that this is not like a good role model, So, and I remember thinking like, wow, it actually makes sense what he's saying. We were like, rebellious teenagers and all that, but I remember thinking, wow, that actually makes sense. Yeah, it's not a very good role model, is it? He died of drugs at such a young age. So a little bit of sense got through my thick brain. So, so it's unfortunate that we follow, generally that sort of role model. Those sort of role models have become prominent, which should say, not that they're all bad, but in many cases they're not the best. They're certainly not pure devotees. So, but today there is still some affection for the royal family and so on. Like Her Grace Madhya Rita Devidasi was saying in a class recently that when she was young, she went to Thailand, And she was really surprised at how much affection the people had for the king and queen in Thailand. So there's still some remnants of it. But back in these times, in Vedic times, definitely, definitely before the start of Kali Yuga, before the kings became they became more degraded, people really, really had a lot of affection and just really attached to the king. And therefore, it was really good that if the king was a pure devotee, it would really have a very big effect on society. And that's Krishna's plan. That's how he does it. That's why he does it like that. And people would follow their example just naturally, because they're, number one, they have so much affection for the king and the queen. And number two, because Krishna consciousness is naturally attractive. So when you see someone who's Krishna conscious, you naturally become attracted and want to be like that. Yeah. I remember actually when I was still a brahmachari in the temple in Cape Town a number of years ago, and we used to go every year to the Rath Yatra festival in Durban. It's a very big one, very big annual Rath Yatra festival, and it's a really big one, and they invite many like very senior devotees come down for it, and there's different ones that come every year. And I remember one year, I think I've been practicing Krishna consciousness maybe for 3 or 4 years, and there was one devotee, senior devotee, Prabhupada disciple, named Sikhi Mahiti Prabhu. Some of you may know him. Yeah, he was at least at that time, he was a Grihasta. And I just remember like seeing him taking prasadam and just, following the program and so on, and just really made a strong impression on me that this person's really Krishna conscious. He's really, really Krishna conscious, and he's become successful in his Krishna consciousness, if you know what I mean. Not that I'm that I was or am in any position to be able to detect how Krishna conscious someone is, but it was just so clear and obvious, and everyone could see it, how Krishna conscious that he was. And I remember it really, really inspired me, like a lot, like really did. And I felt like, wow, I really want to be like that, Krishna conscious like that. It's like, wow, that's how I want to be. So that was, and it's still to this day. That was maybe 12 years ago or so, and it's still, just remembering him still inspires me today. Yeah. So this is the basic principle, that people would see someone who's Krishna conscious, and just by seeing a real life example of a Krishna conscious person, one naturally wants to be like that as well, because you can see this is something really, really good, and this person's really happy inside, and this is how I would like to be too. Yeah, so it's a natural principle, and combined with, as we said, the position of the king and how much attachment people had for him, it just sort of worked really well, and people would just becoming Krishna conscious in general. That's how things were going on. People would follow as a baseline, the Vedic principles and so on, but they would really actually go to a higher level and become Krishna conscious, and people were just going back home, back to Godhead. That just, you say, left, right, and center. So it was going on like this, and that was Krishna's effective system. So of course today we don't have monarchy, and Srila Prabhupada, he would generally say that yes, monarchy is the best way of doing it. It's the Vedic way and it works the best. But he said, even in a democracy, if the citizens become Krishna conscious, then they'll elect a Krishna conscious person. And even in a democracy, a similar thing can happen, that you can have persons in leadership positions who are Krishna conscious, and others will see them, be inspired to take to Krishna consciousness, and in this way, the same principle can apply. Yeah, so sometimes devotees would ask Srila Prabhupada, though, like about force, how much force can you use? And like if a Krishna conscious person somehow that comes to power, can they forcibly close slaughterhouses and this and that? And Srila Prabhupada would always say, you can't really, it won't really be effective. It won't really work in the long run, because the people themselves are still, they're still not Krishna conscious, and they're still attached to these things. So it's only a matter of time before they'll pull that person down and then themselves elect someone else who's more inclined to what they want. So he always emphasized the solution is to make people in general Krishna conscious. Then naturally they will elect someone who's Krishna conscious, and naturally things will go on that way. So if we want to know how to reestablish what's we've seen in the Bhagavatam, we could be rest assured the way is not through some political or military strategy or anything. The way is through simply doing what Srila Prabhupada asked, trying to distribute his books, trying to give Krishna consciousness to as many people as possible, and that will change society. That will change people, and eventually it will affect the leadership of the country and the world. So there were other points to make, but I think we don't want to just overload everyone too much. So I think that's probably good to end there. And if anyone has any questions or comments, welcome to take now. Any realizations? Okay. Oh, yes, we were. So a Brahmana is more valuable? Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada often point out that that currently the head of society is missing. Like if you have a body, but there's no head on it, it's it's just a very bad condition, it's a very dangerous condition actually. So the moment there's generally it's said Kalo Shudra Sambhava, that everyone is born a Shudra in Kali Yuga. But there's a few Vaishyas, it's true. There's a few Vaishyas as well. But even those Vaishyas tend to not protect cows. They tend to actually even do like a lot of bad things for the world, but still there's mainly Shudras and some Vaishyas. So Srila Prabhupada emphasized that that ISKCON's trying to create the head, trying to recreate the head of society. In other words, train a class of Brahminical persons. And in that way, once the head is back on the body, then things will start to fall into place. So yeah. Thank you, bro. Yeah. I know. I mean, I'd have to see. We'd have to have the the quote and the context and all that. But I know what you mean. He has said that anything can be used in Krishna's service, for example. Yeah, even a bomb. Yeah. Yeah. But generally speaking, if you listen to his conversations with devotees, um, if he would emphasize this point that I was making, that it's really want to make a change, you have to make the people Krishna conscious. And he was open to democracy. If it's the main thing is that the person in charge should be Krishna conscious, whether it's this form or that form. Like it won't help. It's like a unless there's Krishna consciousness there, even whatever externals are there, they're not going to work. But if Krishna consciousness is there, and whatever the externals are, it will somehow other work if Krishna consciousness is there. Yeah. Yeah, that was Prabhupada's. Yeah. 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 Right. So the question is how yeah. So yeah. So Prabhupada, as I said, he was emphasizing making the people Krishna conscious. But even if the majority of the people don't become Krishna conscious, um, even as just some percentage of the population is Krishna conscious, others will see that this is something good and follow, even though themselves maybe they're not able to practice Krishna consciousness, but they'll see that this is the better way of doing things, and they'll see the results and so on, and that way they'll vote for the Krishna conscious leader. Yeah, that would be my answer to that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, Matri. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice point, eh? The soul's so small, but it's empowering the whole body. Yeah. So just one pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada and see the massive effect. Yeah. Purity is the force, Srila Prabhupada would often say. It's the most important thing. Quality, not necessarily quantity. Anything else? Mm. 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 Oh, I think that's a wonderful example. Yeah, it's a wonderful example, practical example of growing up. Eh? How that can happen. Yeah, if the parents are Krishna conscious, that's the best way for the children to detect the Krishna consciousness. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Another example. Hey. Amazing. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.